Is that better? All right. Good morning, everybody. It is just after 9 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and start our lesson in writing. So, in writing today, we're going to be working on writing the beginning of our story. So, I want to first look back at our mentor text, and I wanted to just read kind of the beginning of our mentor text. Whereas yesterday we focused on writing that lead in or the introduction to our story. That was that like bang pop where you used like sound words or you used dialogue. um, Reading through a lot of yours, I saw a lot of you had remembered to include at least two of those elements of the introduction. If you didn't, you probably lost a couple points on it, but I may have made some notes. I may have even made a suggestion. I know on Ben's, in particular, his introduction had started out okay, but it just kind of fell short. It didn't like lead me into like wanting to read anymore. It just kind of fell flat. So I added a little bit more to kind of help him get started on adding more detail. So hopefully we follow through on that. Let's jump into the beginning. So this is where the story takes place, right? It's the beginning of the story. This is where we're setting the setting. We drove into the middle of the city where the food bank was located. It was a big, tall building on a busy street. From the car, I couldn't even see the top of the building. When we arrived, we parked and ran as fast as we could into the food bank. It was so hot outside, you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. Once we were inside the cool building, Jill took us on a tour of the food bank. And that's the beginning. Just this part right here of our mentor text is all we're focusing on writing today. So it's not really that much. But in this part of the story, we've we've set the scene. We know it's in a big city. We know it's probably summertime. It was very hot outside. So hot you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. We know that the building's air conditioned. We know it was in a crowded area. It might have been kind of hard to park, right? So all of these things help us to paint a picture of what our main character's seeing and what they're doing. Let's jump now over to our material slide. So on Thursday of last week, I believe it was Thursday, we kind of plotted out the beginning, middle, and end for our stories. Today, we are only focusing on the beginning. So think about what you listed as the beginning items of your story. Those are the elements that you're going to want to tell about today. I'm going to slide down here to my beginning slide. And here we are here. So earlier, we plotted out those elements that we drove into the middle of the city. We parked. It was hot, so we ran outside and we met Jill for our tour. That's great. But what I want to do is I want to kind of spice that up. I want to add more detail. I want to use some transition words. As soon as, initially, it started, or in an instant. Adding these transition words into what we're writing is going to make it a little bit more exciting. It's going to make it flow a little better as we move from one place or one event to another event. Uh, but as I'm detailing out the beginning of my story, I want to make sure that what I'm writing I include lots of details. So instead of just we drove into the middle of the city, we drove into the middle of the city where the food bank was located. But I didn't stop there. I described the city. It was in a big, tall building on a busy street. From the car, I couldn't even see the top of the building. We parked. When we arrived, notice that transition moving from one event to the next. We parked and ran as fast as we could to get into the food bank. Why did we run so fast? It was so hot outside, you could fry an egg on the sidewalk. Once we were inside the cool building, again, a transition, Jill took us on a tour of the food bank. So here's how we meet Jill for the tour of our food bank. So today, I want you to focus on writing just the beginning paragraphs of your personal narrative. So think back to what your topic was, what you were writing your introduction and lead to yesterday. And now we're going to focus on the beginning portion of your story. You outlined this, I believe, last Thursday. So use your outline of the beginning of your story to kind of help you plot out what events you're going to be talking about as you start writing about them in more detail. Does anybody have any questions before you guys begin? All right, go ahead and get